I fear we may have lost the plot with science. I met someone recently who studies trans brains, one of the many scientists who may now be out of a job, one of the many trying to use science for good to find some kind of empirical evidence that the trans brain is natural, trying to translate the potential of scientific breakthrough onto the political. Barad asks us to think about what quantum field theory has to offer to queer and trans imaginaries, a theory that rests upon evidence of the indeterminacy of matter. It breaks down the presuppositions of being in the way that we understand it. It works to de-essentialize the way that we understand particles. Electrons have no essence. There are no male electrons or female electrons. Electrons don't have any reverence for binaries. They are, rather, a totality of indeterminacy. Particles themselves are non-binary. The subatomic particles that make up our bodies can't even be determinate. So why must something as silly as sex organs be the material for understanding our roles in the social? The social realities that we contend with have never been based on the material realities that we understand. The material realities that we understand aren't even based on the material realities themselves. We breathe life into every new discovery we make. A non-binary theoretical physicist would certainly be the one to stretch new theories of materiality to cover queer political imaginations. Now that we have more queer and trans people in the world of technoscience, new discursive formations can inform these discoveries that are meant to ontologize queer existence, to make it materially tangible, scientifically amenable, perhaps even allied. The idea is that if you collect enough data, if you can amass an observable base of evidence upon which you can convince people of your right to exist, then maybe we can know peace. We can orient ourselves toward justice. We can justify our being in the world. But that's not how this works. We can learn the language of science all we want. We can immerse ourselves in it, go native, as anthropologists would say. But what happens when we find the gay gene, or the trans gene, or any marker of deviance from the cisgender, heterosexual imperative? What happens when we expand access to an ontic queerness, a queerness that has a real, tangible, defined presence in the world? We are inherently colonizing queerness, even more than we already have. Our queer in the West is not everyone's queer. Indigenous identities that we would consider queer are rather normal for those communities. But we've ordered sex and gender, bent ourselves on fitting them into tables, taxonomies of being that allow us to reveal essences. If we find a gene, attach it to an identity marker that we have defined, and ontologize a sense of queerness, we are failing to recognize the variegated and indeterminate expressions of gender and sexuality. We allow further legitimizing of a proper form of knowledge. We mandate that the intangible take on tangible form, and we further sensitize ourselves to the uncertainties of the world, uncertainties that are simply part of living.